Hello, very good evening and welcome to Friday's Granada Reports.
Hello, thanks for joining us on the programme this evening.
For many of us here today, the date, August the 22nd, 1985, has been imprinted on our hearts and minds for every one of the last 40 years.
A moment of silence to remember 40 years since 55 people died in the worst British airport disaster.
I'm live at the Garden of Remembrance here at Manchester Airport, where a really poignant service was held to remember those who boarded the plane that day and never came home.
One man's 4,500-mile journey of discovery to trace his ancestors.
One of the region's busiest train stations is set to reopen after a 3-week closure which saw the construction of a brand new bridge over the West Coast Main Line.
The documentary by a grieving dad celebrating the work of a children's hospice, now available on a major streaming service.
And it's here, there's no holding back the bank holiday weekend, and weather-wise it's a bit of a Goldilocks one. Not too hot, not too cold, hopefully just about right. All the details coming up.
So please do stay with us, but first tonight, and today marks the 40th anniversary of the Manchester air disaster, a tragedy we've been marking all this week.
Yeah, shortly before takeoff on the 22nd of August 1985, a British Air Tours plane bound for Corfu caught fire on the runway of our region's busiest airport, claiming 55 lives.
But while the tragedy changed aviation for the better, for those caught up in the horrors that day, the memories have never left them.
Many of them came together at the airport earlier for a special memorial service. Our correspondent Mel Barham was there and can join us live now. Mel.
Yeah, it was an incredibly poignant service at the airport's Garden of Remembrance here earlier today. Survivors, bereaved families, those who were working on the emergency services that day, they all came here to remember those awful, dreadful scenes of that day in 1985. And the service began with a minute's silence, not just here, but also on the airfield. There were no flights, not even any taxiing, as this busy airport came to a complete standstill to remember the 55 people who boarded the plane that day 40 years ago and never came home. Well, the names of the 55 victims were read out one by one, and you can see those names etched into the wood of this memorial here. And although it has been 40 years, for those caught up in this disaster, it still feels like yesterday.
Very emotional, but very beautiful. They've done it beautiful today for everybody, which was needed, and it just brings it all back. It's very sad, really.
It brings back the day, it brings back the enormity of what Manchester was. Said as a 13-year-old, and then you hear the individual names being read out. The time it takes to read through those names just shows the difficulty that we had on that day.
I think today's been all about the importance of remembering. And that is falling silent, so taking a moment in the middle of the day, a minute's silence, knowing that all the movements on the airfield stopped. And I think that's a comfort for friends and family and survivors to know that the loss of loved ones is still significant to this airport 40 years on.
This disaster transformed aviation safety, but for some of the people here today, all those lessons have not all been learnt.
Because today we're still saying there should be smoke hoods fitted on planes. The service in part remembers the people obviously, but also there's a driving behind that, there's also a drive that things need to change. You can't forget. If you forget, then you won't learn. And we've learned some of the lessons, but not all of the lessons.
Well, joining me tonight is the former Granada Reports presenter Rob McLaughlin, who was one of the first reporters on the scene that day. Thank you so much for joining us, Rob. Just tell us what your memories are of that day.
Well, it's very emotional because when I first arrived very early in the morning, I remember going into the terminal. The airport was obviously much smaller than it is now, and there was complete silence in the terminal because people knew something dreadful had happened. They didn't know the details. You could look out the window and you could see the fire on the runway. People were protecting their children because they were waiting for flights. So it was a horrid situation. And then I met a senior fire officer who told me that we were facing a national tragedy. And when I asked him how many lives may have been lost, he just told me that we were talking about dozens and dozens.
And it was a defining moment in aviation history, wasn't it? But do you think all the lessons have been learned?
Well, in 1985, some 2,000 lives were lost in crashes and disasters like here at Manchester. Today, up until this point in 2025, 490 lives have been lost. A lot of people would say that's 490 lives too many. Yes, there have been obviously major developments. The smoke huts point that you were talking about last night and you mentioned tonight, I think was very important. Granada Reports campaigned very heavily for smoke huts. And I think if you gave people a choice now, I think a lot of people would still opt for smoke huts.
Thank you very much for joining us tonight, Rob. Well, the epitaph on this memorial here reads, "Their lives were not lost in vain." And undoubtedly, over the last 40 years, many lives have been saved as a direct result of this disaster. But it is important to remember the 55 people who died to make that happen.
OK, Mel at Manchester Airport. Thank you.
Well, next, to a journey that's taken a man from Liverpool back in time and halfway around the world.
Yes, Malik Al-Nasser is an author and poet who we've spoken to before on Granada Reports. Back then, he candidly spoke to us about his traumatic childhood and his struggle to find his place in the world.
Well, since then, he's traced his ancestry back to Guyana in South America, where he made an unexpected discovery.
Ahead of International Slavery Remembrance Day, Malik has been speaking to Tim Scott.
A journey from Liverpool to Guyana for Malik Al-Nasser to trace his ancestry.
I just found the first person who actually knows my grandfather.
But what Malik uncovered was a secret history of the slave trade and his family's links not just to the slaves but to one of the richest, most important dynasties who made their vast wealth off the backs of slave labour and used it to build modern-day Liverpool.
They were building ships in Glasgow, they were trading the commodities in Liverpool, and they were managing the slave plantations and the production of commodities in Demerara. They took Liverpool from being a town and turned it into the city that it is today.
We first met Malik in 2021 when his book Letters to Gil was published. It told the story of his traumatic early life in Liverpool care homes and how a chance meeting with the poet Gil Scott Heron turned his life around. His new book, Searching for My Slave Roots, documents his search for his ancestors in the old slave plantations of what was then British Guyana. It all began when Malik watched a documentary about Andrew Watson, the world's first black international footballer, who captained the Scotland side back in 1881.
The thing about this guy was he looked just like me. He came from Demerara in what was then British Guyana. I was Mark Watson. I changed my name to Malik Al-Nasser when I become a Muslim. So I'm in this situation now where I can see this guy who looks like me, who comes from the same part of Demerara as my dad comes from, who's got the family name of my father's family. And I'm thinking, am I connected to this guy in some way? And that was the beginning of the journey for me.
Malik travelled to modern-day Guyana and found out he was indeed related to Andrew Watson as a distant cousin. But he also found out he and his ancestors were related to Samuel Sambach, a rich founding father of Liverpool, whose vast wealth as part of the Sambach-Tinney dynasty derived from the slave-driven sugar plantations of Demerara in British Guyana.
Sambach-Tinney as an entity is interwoven throughout the whole story. Samuel Sambach was the mayor of Liverpool in 1831. He founded the Bank of Liverpool. He was among the founding proprietors of the Liverpool Royal Institution on Colquitt Street, which actually was the foundation for what is today Liverpool University and John Moores University. These guys were instrumental in so much of, managing the British Empire at one point. It was almost absurd
that nobody had ever heard of them.
Malik would buy up letters and documents from eBay and online collectors to help him build up a picture of the Sambach Tinney dynasty, their wealth matched only by their cruelty.
They classed the African people as livestock. They weren't classed as people. So they would bring them into the barn, strip them naked, examine them, make them jump and dance around, pull them and prod them, and then literally sell them.
And these plantation owners were having sexual relations with their slaves all of the time, weren't they?
Once a woman was owned, she was considered to be sexually available, which meant that any white man could exploit her sexually and she had no right to refuse. They had sort of kind of raped their way into my family tree.
At Liverpool's Walker Art Gallery, there's a display featuring these marble reliefs commissioned by the Sambach family, showing them in the presence of Jesus. But thanks in part to Malik's research, they've now been recontextualised to explain theirs and the Sambach family's links to slavery.
Having someone like Malik, who's a descendant of the Sambach Tinney family, was just a really, really important part of bringing those histories back to Liverpool, back to the local people, and also thinking about the hardships of Malik's life, and really, really thinking about how it's still affecting people today, these histories. And I think that was the key part of this project, is really thinking about how it resonates today.
Malik amassed a huge archive of information and documents relating to the Sambach Tinney dynasty. The archive has now been digitised and will be publicly available online later this month via Cambridge University Library, an invaluable resource for future historians and the legacy of Malik's years of tireless research. Tim Scott, ITV News, Liverpool.
Well, to mark International Slavery Remembrance Day, Malik will be giving a talk and a presentation at Liverpool's Walker Art Gallery tomorrow.
To other news today, and a teenager has appeared at the Old Bailey accused of having information about setting wildfires for terrorist purposes. Mohammed Zakir Arif, who's from Oldham, is charged with 4 offences of possessing a record containing information useful to terrorism. The 19-year-old will appear in court again in Manchester in November, with the trial fixed for next year.
This year's Manchester Pride starts today, with thousands gathering to celebrate the LGBTQ+ community. The festival, known as Mardi Gras, will run throughout the bank holiday weekend, with the famous parade happening on Saturday.
More than 500,000 people are expected to visit Bolton Food and Drink Festival from today. It's the 20th year of the festival, which will feature star chef James Martin and Marco Pierre White, as well as 180 other vendors. The festival will run over the bank holiday weekend.
Trains will start running through one of our region's busiest stations again tomorrow as it reopens for the first time in 3 weeks.
Yeah, Stockport closed at the beginning of the month as works to tear down a crucial bridge which sits above the West Coast Main Line took place.
The bridge, which carries a roundabout and is one of the main roads in and out of the town centre, was built in 1958. Network Rail says it had to be replaced for age-related safety reasons.
Well, Jennifer Buck is there for us tonight. And is everything on track there, Jennifer?
Yes, certainly on track and all ready to go tomorrow. Now, this has been a huge undertaking for all the engineers and all the staff working here on this bridge, but I should also say that it's been a really tricky 3 weeks for all the commuters and all the travellers who rely on Stockport train station. Because of this work on the bridge, the train station has now been closed for 21 days. Now, just to give you an idea of the work going on here, 100 engineers have been working every day to dismantle the 67-year-old bridge. Now, until a few weeks ago, that bridge had a 4-way roundabout on top of it. Over the last 2 weeks, teams have removed 200 beams from the old bridge that was deemed simply unsafe. They've lifted and moved the beams for its replacement over 5 railway lines. Now, just earlier on today, the new concrete was poured into place on top of those steel beams to create the new bridge, and it's hoped that that new structure will last around 120 years. Now, this is all part of a £20 million investment for the hugely busy West Coast Main Line that, of course, runs through Stockport. And it's hoped that it will improve train journeys for freight and for passengers travelling across the northwest.
When we hand back the railway tomorrow morning at 5 o'clock, we will have a brand new railway bridge here. And that will then enable us to do the replacement of the roundabouts and utilities to open the road back in spring next year. It's a huge amount of work and planning to design and deliver a scheme like this, with lots of people working night and day for 21 days, and to be at the point of handing back the railway. It's a really proud moment.
Now, I should say that while it's all systems go for train passengers using Stockport train station from tomorrow, road users are still facing disruption. Greek Street roundabout just behind me is still closed, and the work will be going on for a full year. That started in March and it will reopen in March 2026.
Jennifer, many thanks indeed.
Now let's see what's still to come on the ITV Evening News at 6:30 with Lucrezia.
Coming up on tonight's ITV Evening News, the government will fight the closure of the Epping Asylum Hotel in the courts as more protests are planned for the weekend. Baby food manufacturers told to cut salt and sugar and stop promoting snacks for babies under the age of 1. And we're in Sunderland ahead of the Women's Rugby World Cup, which kicks off tonight. Join me for those stories and more at 6:30.
We're going to stay with sports now, and the player who suffered racist abuse at Anfield last week has been speaking for the first time about the experience. Chris, what's he had to say?
That's right. He's been speaking exclusively to ITV News in the last hour. Antoine Semenyo has called for greater punishment for those who racially abuse footballers after his own experience at Anfield. A man from Liverpool was released on bail this week after being arrested on suspicion of racially abusing the Bournemouth forward, who scored twice in the 4-2 defeat to Liverpool on the opening day of the Premier League season.
It's mind-boggling, to be honest. I feel like the punishment isn't enough when things like this happen. So I feel like with what's happening now, I feel like there has to be great punishment. I feel like going forward as well, for any players that I've met might have experienced it, they shouldn't shy away from reporting and make sure that the punishment is maximum, because it's unacceptable.
You can see the full interview on the ITV Evening News straight after Granada reports. Staying with football now, and for Everton fans, the big moment has finally arrived. Yes, there have been test events, but this is the big one. Sunday's game against Brighton will be the first competitive match in their new home at Hill Dickinson Stadium. But can they start the new era with a win?
I remember last year when I came in, it felt like the pressure to get results to stay in the Premier League. Then I had the pressure of could we win the last game at Goodison? It was in the derby. Then it was could we win the last game at Goodison as well? So I think it's the first game at a new stadium. We're all really excited about it, looking forward to it. Hope the crowd are really excited by it as well. We have to give them something to shout about, and hopefully we can do that.
Yeah, that is some stadium. It's going to be a special moment for Everton fans, and Burnley fans have a special moment to look forward to as well. After their promotion last season, they bring the Premier League back to Turf Moor. They face Sunderland tomorrow, the team who came up with them from the Championship. Manager Scott Parker says the Burnley fans will play a crucial role this season.
There's going to be some adversity, there's going to be some bumpy times, but I absolutely no doubt that our fan base can help this young team, can help all of us, and make the stadium a tough one to come to, can spur us on, can give us that extra bit when we need it. And I know they're going to be right behind us through thick, through thin, through bad, through good. And that's exactly what we're going to need this year.
Manchester City have today secured the services of Ruben Dias until 2029. The Portuguese defender, who has 7 major trophies in 5 years with City, was already under contract until 2027, but he signed a 2-year extension with the option to stay a further 12 months after that. Now to the busiest team in this transfer window. After postponing their opening 3 games due to their financial crisis, Morecambe are finally set to start their National League campaign after rapidly pulling a squad together from scratch. Since being rescued by a takeover and having their National League suspension lifted, it's been a race against time to sign enough players to fulfil their fixture with Altrincham tomorrow. But after snapping up 9 players in just 3 days so far, they're on course for a great occasion at the Mazuma Mobile Stadium.
Getting that winning feeling. FOW, sponsor of the Granada Sport Report.
Well, now we turn to Rugby Union and the start of the Women's World Cup. 2 matches will be staged at the Salford Community Stadium tomorrow. Australia v Samoa, followed by Scotland-Wales. The tournament kicks off tonight with England facing USA, a game which has split loyalties at Sale Sharks, who have players in both camps, including captain Georgie Perris-Redding, who's recovered from a 10-month ACL injury in time to line up for America.
When I first joined Sale, I was like a part of the USA program already, and just to see her go from a non-international to starting in the World Cup opener has been, I don't know, it's just like so exciting, especially like the challenges she's faced and stuff. So I'm just, you know, cheering my captain on and my team for sure.
If you look at the tickets being sold compared to the last World Cup, it's already improved. So if we was to, well, when we win it, I think everyone can see it'll skyrocket again, and more little girls are joining in rugby and older girls are joining in rugby for the first time, and I think it'll just be that domino effect and it'll be brilliant.
Yeah, good luck to England tonight. I love that confidence. Not if we win it, when we win it.
Yeah, they've got it in the bag, surely.
Love it.
Thanks, Chris. Well, next, a grieving dad's documentary about the work of a children's hospice in Chorley is available to stream in the UK and the US from today.
Paul Woodward's son cared for at Darien House before he died in 2019. His film, called The Little Things, aims to bring down misconceptions about children's hospices, highlighting not just the challenges, but also the huge amounts of love and memories.
Yeah, the film, described by one critic as the most moving documentary they've seen, is on Amazon Prime now, as Anne O'Connor reports.
Made in Chorley, available to view in Chicago. The Little Things is a film about the children's hospice Darien House, the legacy of a little boy who lived some of his best moments here.
His name was Khalil, and he died when he was 11 years old, and he was coming here from about, I think it was about 3 years old, so a long time.
Khalil's father Paul, a filmmaker, and his family are some of the thousands helped through unimaginable pain and joy here.
The most amazing little human, you know.
I was going to say, he has all these conditions, but he is gorgeous.
Yeah, you know, the sound of ducks would make him laugh, or a squeaky hinge on a door, or... and in many ways, it's his personality that is in this film. I don't feature, he doesn't feature our story, but the reason we come back is because of the journey we had with him.
Okay, for both of you, yeah. Take one, roll A.
So he made a small budget documentary about it, and now it's being streamed on Amazon Prime.
It is a beautiful film, I'm sure. You have a beautiful subject, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, the people, the staff, the families, the children of Darien House Children's Hospice have been so beautiful to document. There's so many wonderful stories and beautiful people that have been coming through the film whilst we've been working here. And it's been an honour. It's been an absolute pleasure to be here.
The children and their relatives are the stars of this production. At its launch, they got a message from another celeb, Darien patron and League of Gentlemen actor Steve Pemberton.
I'm sure it'll bring a new audience and new understanding to Darien House and children's hospices in general. So well done to you, and yeah, fingers crossed the film makes a big impact.
That is the hope here. Like so many hospices all over the UK, Darien faces financial challenges every year.
It absolutely shines a spotlight on the hospice world, both the children's and the adult sector. It's so important to let people know how magical hospice care is and dispel some of the myths around hospice care. This is such a magical place here at Darien House. Sad things happen, but it can be the most joyous place, and it's really important to put that into people's living rooms and open the doors on it across the UK and now across America.
And as Karen says, as you watch this, someone else could be watching the film in New York. Another of the many things that would make Khalil smile. Anne O'Connor, ITV News in Chorley.
Yeah, it really is a magical place. And just before we go to the weather, on ITVX there's an exclusive interview with Dove's frontman Jimmy Goodwin, who's been telling us about his new project, Nightjar, and how it came about.
My love of hip-hop, you know, and I've been making this album for 7 years, a real labour of love.
Yeah, Jimmy joined me earlier with Detroit MC Guilty Simpson and Proven, who both feature on Jimmy's album Mala Leche, along with other artists from across the globe. Tomorrow night, they'll be coming together for a special show at Manchester's Band on the Wall. You can see our full chat over on ITVX.
Here's Emma.
Why do I need a shower? I've been out in the rain.
The faster you go, the sooner you'll be out. You'll save water too.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Hello there, hope you've had a super day and that you're all ready for the bank holiday weekend. Now, of course, you could log on for the forecast, as Robin is doing here, to our website, obviously, or you could just keep watching because it's all here and it's not looking too bad at all. Lots of cloud around, yes, largely staying dry, an odd glancing spittle spot here and there, but things warming up and it will be hot and sunny on bank holiday Monday. So let's take a look and dive into the detail. So then high pressure still in charge at the moment. Still some issues with cloud, however, quite a lot of it, but the high slips away to the near continent over the next 24 to 48 hours, bringing about a change in wind direction, opening up the gates to that southerly warm flow. And then after the bank holiday weekend, it's all eyes out to the west on the remnants of Hurricane Erin, which is actually going to skirt away to the north. We're going to miss the worst of this, but it will bring about a little bit of a breakdown on Tuesday and Wednesday. We're not going berserk with the sunshine then until Monday. As I say, there will be quite a bit of cloud around tonight. Some thicker clouds sink southwards, skies clear behind it, and then the cloud starts to thicken again across the Isle of Man and the northwest of England. Largely staying dry though, light winds. In fact, winds will not be a feature until Tuesday or Wednesday. Sun's up on Saturday just past 6 in the morning. A bit of a cloudy, overcast start, maybe a bit damp for some of us, but later on things brightening up. Everything mixes up. There'll be some bright spells, large plates of cloud drifting around, and also later on maybe 1 or 2 showers just drifting into Merseyside. But temperatures on the up, it's getting warm. On Sunday it's the in-betweensy kind of day, more sunshine than there was on Saturday, but not as much as there will be on Monday, and by Monday up to 26 Celsius, the upper 70s Fahrenheit. Bye-bye.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Well, just before we go, take a look at these gorgeous new inhabitants of Chester Zoo.
The tiny golden lion tamarins, George and Leaf, are just 8 inches tall and are the first of their kind to live at the zoo. The bright orange monkeys are native to the forests of Rio de Janeiro.
How adorable are they? We definitely need to go and visit them at some point.
They're called tamarins. Just want to give them a little cuddle. That's it from us. We'll see you next week. Have a good one.
Have a lovely weekend.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.